To this webinar during our Keynotes 2020. The topic of today, of this session, I have to say, is PlantTools for AutoCAD Plant 3D 2021, an overview and new features. Actually, it's an overview of the new features. So this is me. The idea was to use a webcam, but my license of GoToWebinar doesn't support that, so you have to use this, well, actually old picture, but you will see in a moment. So my responsibility within Auxalia is being the product manager of PlantTools and helping customers with consulting in process plant. I have more than 32 years of experience since AutoCAD release 9, when there was no 3D. I also developed in Autolisp or in Visual Basic. I'm also used the software, the AutoCAD P90, AutoCAD Plant 3D, and its predecessor. And well, I'm also a trainer for, or trainer, is a trainer or teacher, and I'm doing, of course, the consulting. Yeah, my experience is AutoCAD, well, P90 2009 and Plant 3D 2010 till 2021. And now with the new 2021 version, of course, there is also BIM 360 docs and BIM 360 design I have to take care of. And my specialty is the databases of AutoCAD Plant 3D, be it SQLite or SQL Server. Of course, also the catalogs and the specs use SQLite databases and the nozzle catalog and so on. So for those who came a little bit later, this is recorded, so you didn't miss anything. And now, don't get scared. So this is how I look, a little bit different. Again, webcam didn't work. Or to be more in line with the current health situation, that's also me. So just to have some jokes maybe on my expense. Okay, okay. So we are Auxalia now. Some of you may know us as CAD Studio or Bytes and Building, and we merged last year to become the biggest German-speaking reseller or Autodesk partner in the construction industry. And Plant is also part of what Autodesk calls AEC, the construction area. Yeah, we are over 70 employees, and our offices are mostly here in Germany, but there's also one in Austria, in Switzerland, and a new one in Munich. Okay, so now about the features I want to talk about. And I did this session in German 3 hours ago, and I was too long, so I try to be a little bit swifter, more swift. So these are the main improvements or new features during the last year. So I will show a bit in Plant Data Manager, Plant Reporter, and then a bit more in Plant. Well, the most significant part is Plant Spec Driven and Plant Express tools during that session here. Yeah, off to the presentation. As the ones of you who know me know that I don't do a lot of PowerPoints. So let's start with Plant Data Manager. Okay, I already opened my project. That's the project I'm using during that session. That's my Plant Spec Driven project. So I loaded the project, and so the first thing we did is we changed the user interface in a way that we use different so-called controls. So we replaced everything with Dev Express controls, which allows us to, for example, use the docking of Dev Express. You can move things around, stack them like you would do in actually more in Revit. You can actually stack. You can stack pallets. So, well, come on. So now I have here, for example, Explorer and properties. Yeah, and you can move it around whatever you want, however you want. Then you can hide all the, well, classes and records which did not change. So this gives you an overview of all, well, there's not much to it. Maybe here's a little, Yeah, I did not make a lot of changes, but you see only the, well, there's just one tank I changed. You see only the changes I actually made. Let me just put this on the other side, it's annoying. Only the changes I made so far. So if you click on it again, then all the classes and records are there again. And finally, you can, no, that's not what I wanted. You can go to the settings and use a different style. So by default, that's the, well, the light style. You can also use all sorts of other styles, for example, the dark style, but I prefer actually a different one. I use darkroom here, which gives a little bit more contrast. So, but that's up to you. You can use light and or not. Yeah, this is a request several customers had because more and more software like even AutoCAD, Plant3D, or Office move to having dark color scheme. Okay, Plant Reporter. Here I have another one, which is now Macintosh. It's also available. So if you are more like a Macintosh user, probably not if you work with AutoCAD, Plant3D specifically. So what is new in Plant Reporter? We can now also create or export, I have to say, export not just to Excel, standard Excel file, where is it? Excel, XLS format. We can also use XLSX and docx file format. That's new, or well, not during the last year. And yeah, as I mentioned, you can set the color scheme or the color scheme here as well. Then what Plant Reporter does, it warns you if you have changes made by Plant Data Manager which have not been imported. So you can either say, okay, cancel, or you can say, okay, create the report anyway. When you create the report, the changes obviously made in Plant Data Manager which have not been imported are not considered for the report. That's on purpose. Otherwise, you would be able to create a report which does not reflect your drawings. That's not a good idea. Okay, so nothing special here. So you get this warning. Very useful. Okay, coming to AutoCAD and Plant Spec Driven. In Plant Spec Driven, we have two new features. One is almost done. It should be done this week. And this is the so-called branch symbols. A customer of us in the US, by the way, I will have an interview tomorrow at 6 p.m. European time here. Greg Wood from CRB, they use AutoCAD Plant3D, or specifically the P90 part, to draw airflow diagrams. And what they wanted to know is if on a branch, if there is an imbalance. So for example, here you see 70 go in, 30 go out, and 50 go out. So there is an imbalance. So you see 70, 80 go out, and so this is out of balance. And this is actually done, this, let's say, calculation is done by PlantLink in combination with Plant Express tools. But for this to work, he would need to insert this branch symbol, which is, well, now here it's a little bit bigger. In reality, he will have a smaller one. But of course, he doesn't want to insert this symbol on each branch. And he uses Plant Spec Driven heavily. So we thought, what about Plant Spec Driven inserting these symbols automatically by some rule you can define? And I will show this in a moment. And then it kind of dawned on me, we have customers who use Plant Spec Driven who insert T's, reduced T's or straight T's. But these are actually also branch symbols in a way. So I was able to also cover this, and you will see in a moment. Then we had a lot of improvements in the attribute flow of Plant Spec Driven. To understand, for those of you who are not familiar with Plant Spec Driven or the attribute flow, attribute is just another word for a property. So, for example, I have here insulation type, insulation thickness, and I have multiple branches, inline segments, pipeline segments. So I have here a segment, here a segment. This is a pressure reducing valve, so there is a segment stopping here, then I have this, another. So I have multiple segments within of one pipeline group, number 600. In my case, the way I configured it, let me just put this on. So you see the insulation here in the annotation everywhere. So if I change let me just see, I have so many palettes open now. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. Actually, here it is. If I make a change, you already see the change at the top here. So it was pushed from this line segment to the other line segments because I defined the rule that way. And you will see in a moment how that works, how you define the rule. How does the attribute flow know what to do? So this is the attribute flow. The attribute flow is also working across or using off-page connector. So if I, for example, change this here to a size 150, okay, and I click, then I'm asked if I want to push that, or if I want to open the other drawing and push that information through. So I say yes, and yeah, okay. Okay, so now I have the change here. As I said, the one feature is not quite done yet, so we may get some error messages, but you see now the size here changed from the other PIN-ID. That's not a PIN-ID, that's my PIN-ID. So also off-page connectors are considered within the line group or for this attribute flow. What is new now is that if you delete a branch, a segment breaker, like this symbol here, or a reducer, or this pressure reducing valve, anything that breaks a segment into two segments, then we show a different dialog than you are used to by Plant3D. And let me just check. That's okay. No, there's something wrong. I did not prepare this. That should be actually a different pipe spec. Okay. So obviously the pipe spec, if I change that, doesn't flow over the spec break symbol. Otherwise, I would have the same spec break every time. So now let me delete this. That's strange. That was not a... okay, apparently there was... So let me just insert a new one. Spec breaker, I think this one here. And let me change again the spec. 25. Okay, so now, oh, come on. So we forget about this. I'm supposed to be asked if I want to unite them. Okay, so let me delete this. Apparently it's not working. Okay, anyway, what we also should get is, so this is a pressure reducing valve. And we have different pipe specs and obviously different pressure ratings on both sides. So what Plant Spec-Driven can also do is put any property or any property value into the symbol, which is connected to the two segments or three segments if it's a three-way valve. So you see here inlet and outlet 16 and 10. You can, if you want, so that's optional. If you want, you can also have that information for the inline assets like a straight valve, which is not a segment breaker. Here, I also get that information. Apparently, no, I did not activate that. You will see in a moment. So these improvements, again, I don't know why it did not ask me. Maybe I turned that off, the checkbox. Let me just have a quick look. There is a setting. No, not. Oh, there is something missing now. Okay, that makes sense, my developer. I should not install a version right before a presentation. Anyway, so let me now come to the how the branch symbols work. So you can either have them automatically in, oh, I hope that works now, because yeah, that should work. Ooh, we will see. So I will run an update. Yeah, okay. So sorry, I cannot show this. I shouldn't have installed a version before the presentation. That's so it would insert the T's and the branch symbol automatically. That is supposed to do, but apparently the version does not support that. Okay, next improvement or the next improvements are in PlantExpress tools. So let's go to my ready. Well, actually, we can do that here. So if I select a symbol, and let me just, yeah, that's the one. So I keep that open. That's our so this is our properties palette. So I select the pump, for example, and we see all the properties. If I select the tank, I see only the properties which both classes have in common. So all the other properties are not there. If I select the line segment, for example, or a hand valve, the list gets potentially shorter and shorter because I see only the properties which, yeah, do exist in all the classes. So doing this again, we now have here a button, show all properties. So by default, you see only the common properties. And if you click on it, you see also the individual properties. So for example, flow capacity from the pump. So we show the class name in front of it. So you see all these properties. These do exist only for the pumps or only for the tanks and so on. So, and you can switch back and forth. What we also do, besides showing all or only the common properties, is that, for example, the description is a text field, a string field. So, but we show it kind of or not kind, as a selection list to present you the different values from the different symbols in this case. So because I selected a pump and a tank, so you see this. So if you want, you can select from the selection list. And now, of course, this is also a pump. So this is also an advantage here for our properties palette. And in general, for those of you who do not know, in general, the properties palette of PlantExpress tools allows you to arrange the properties in, let me just, in, do we have maybe something here? Yeah, you can create tabs. I did here, that was actually for the calculation. You can create tabs and you can create groups within the tabs, and you can define which properties you want to see and in what order you want to see them. Okay, so next is the bolt calculation. The bolt calculation we released, I think, just before AU in Las Vegas, or yeah, I think in November, or maybe right after AU. So the bolt calculation. I need this. Yep. The bolt calculation completely replaces the bolt calculation. Well, I don't really want to use the word bolt calculation for what Autodesk or AutoCAD Blend 3D does. So let me just have a look. By the way, for those of you who came later, this is recorded. So what we do is we really calculate the bolts, well, length, but also the number of bolts, number of washers, what have you. You can decide, do you want to have single bolt parts, as we say here? So we have here the bolt, the washer, and the nut, or washers, depending on your setup. Or we can also use bolt sets like Blend 3D does. So let me route a new line, actually coming from with Blend Spec driven. So I will use a line I have from PNID. That's my line, just one segment. It's not really important that we do this for the bolt calculation, but makes somewhat sense. 500, 1000, 3500. Okay, and routing here, accept. So what we will now get is these three parts. The one in the middle, as I said, is the bolt. So with the control key, you can see, for example, M16. Oh, I should switch to English. Well, I think you believe me. So M16 by 70, that's the bolt length. And here you see, well, that can be used for the ISO, for example, the number of bolts, and that's the selected length. And here, that was important to us. Maybe I use the Autodesk properties palette. Then we, yeah. Here we have the actual calculation. So here you see that's 20 plus 2. Let me 20 for the pump flange plus the gasket plus the flange, then the nut, the washer, another washer, and protrusion. So that adds up to 66.8, and then the next available length would be 70. So this is how it works. If I insert, for example, some flap or some wafer flange or a valve, then if you look at the data here, we now get, that's not the bolt. Okay, now we get M16 times 130. And if we want to see this, the calculation, so this is 52, and then the gasket, the flange, the gasket, the flange, and again, nut, two washers, protrusion, and that adds up to 120.8. So if you see this, you can, of course, decide for any connection or any bolt connection, you can either add a certain number of millimeters or inches, or you can define the overall length. So you can add length, so whatever, 10 millimeter, or again, if you work in imperial project, you can also do that in inches. So you can add a certain length, or you can define the real length you want to use. So I select 120, and then you select one or multiple connections. You can select not just that connection, and then it flips the symbols to the top. So you see from the orientation on the symbols whether it is actually, did you make any modifications? So now let's look at the data. Now we see here for the calculation, it is 120, that's the user-defined length. And obviously we use M16 times 120. So maybe because that all the descriptions were in German, because yeah, I forgot to switch to English. So what I will do is I will just go to our Plant project setup, and I go to English. Actually, does not matter which one, just English is okay. And now I just refresh, and you can do this for a drawing. You can do this for all drawings. I update the bolt calculation. Well, for all the bolt calculation. And it runs through all the bolts or bolt parts. And now if we look, now we have switched to English. So that's the way it works, but maybe not such a typical use case, but for me, because I switch between different demo languages. Okay, you can also get this in the ISO then. Let me have a look at one of my ISOs. Well, maybe it would have been faster to actually create the ISO. Come on, final. That's the number, page 1. So the bill of material, if you have again, I did not recreate, so this is still German, but you can get these individual parts also in the ISO. Or if you use bolt sets, then obviously you have only one entry, one line for the bolt sets, whatever you want. Okay. I just want to mention that this feature comes with a standard bolt catalog. where we have the DIN standards, also the old DIN standards, and the new or the current DIN standards, and also the US standards in it. So you can use them, you can copy them, adapt them. But yeah, that I have a blog on our homepage where I go through the bolt calculation, or in our online documentation. Okay, finally, I show a feature which not a lot of customers will use. And let me just close this. That's for tomorrow. Yeah, whatever. Yes. So we have the company INEO in Austria. It was actually INEO Jenbacher, formerly known as GE Jenbacher. They create approximately 1,500 projects per year. Typically, their projects are made out of between 2 and 5 PNIDs, and they kind of, not kind of, they use assemblies. All the projects are very similar. So they have the main machine, and then some, maybe depending on the project, different heating or different ways for heating and cooling, and they pre-drawn that and created assemblies or blocks made out of PNID objects. And so they had 2 requirements. One was, out of their access application, they wanted to be able to create a Plant3D project. So they used Access or Access front end with an Oracle or Oracle database to manage their projects outside of Autodesk environment. But then they create a project in the Access user interface, and they want to be able to, well, create a Plant3D project and also create at least, or typically, 2 drawings. And then a routine is supposed to create that. And what happens is that when they click on a button to create a project, they create 2 Excel files. One is for creating the project. It contains where the project is supposed to be created, how many drawings are there, which drawing and project properties should be filled out. And all that is then set up with Plant Project Setup. So you see, still in German, yeah, again, that's available in English, of course. So you see, for example, where is my template project? Which AutoCAD version do you want to use? Where are my DWT files? There's then a mapping between the page size and the drawing frame, which is supposed to be used. And then there is, and then this Excel file, and there is then also some mapping between the columns in the Excel file. Let me just see. Here we have that. So then it's easier to understand. So we have, like, let's go to the project path, project name, some properties they use to fill out the project properties, project description, maybe the author, drawing name, we have the sheet number, and so on. So what we see here is then the mapping between these columns, or at least some of the columns, and the AutoCAD PNID and Plant PNID project and drawing properties. Since I don't have that Access user interface, I created here a batch file, which then starts what they do from the Access application. So it starts AutoCAD, or Plant3D more specifically. And what happens then is that we use our Plant Express tools rename and copy function. Yes. And run it interactively. So you will see in a moment that the first drawing is created, and then in a moment the second one, and then that's it. Okay, yeah, you get that message at the end. And if we now look at the properties, for example, they come from this Excel file you saw. we see the drawings with some properties, the sheet number, and so on. And this is, yeah, how that works. It is also possible that AutoCAD or Plant3D will be closed after that process is done, that it will be closed automatically. Then, so that is part one. And then the other part is being able to have these assemblies I was talking about, and you will see them in a moment, to have them inserted automatically or rule-based, to be more precise. I already created some. So what they have is they have a folder with some subfolders and more subfolders. And in there, they have their drawings, which are, again, PNID assemblies, if you want. You can define what, it does not matter what the folder structure is. Since I already created rules, I do not want to search them. So what I do is I will search this, or I will filter my tree. And I want to explain this. So I spoke about two Excel files. One is to create the project and the drawings, and the other one is a file with a, let me just search, that should be it. Well, I did not actually, I went out of it. So this is now the project, project created, and these are the two Excel files. So each project comes with its own set of configuration data. And here, which originally comes from an Oracle database, but here we have these two columns, item name and value. These are the important ones. So we see now names, essentially column names, and we see parameters which are unique for that project. So this file is also created for each project. And in the rules, which are defined by some administrator or key user, let's say the regular user who just draws PNIDs, he does not go in there. I just want to show how you do it. So here I define, there is already a rule, I will delete it and create a new one. So you go essentially, well, I need to have that unfiltered. I want to create a new rule. There is a name, I can give it another name, and then, some of you may remember this, we use that in various PlantTools. So here you have this column with all these column names, essentially, or properties if you want. And then you can decide, okay, equals, for example, and it equals, if it equals 320. Okay. Then you have some options like, okay, I do not allow edit. You will see what that means in a moment. I want that this DWG will be exploded after it's inserted. And priority is if you have multiple drawings on top of each other, then it's important that you define a priority so they are ordered or inserted in the order of priority. And then you select which page that is supposed to be inserted. And then there is also offset. The other rule, just to show, is it's the same. The customer has to do that, but that's for another one. And this goes on page 2. And here allow edit is checked. And so, but again, these rules are defined by the customer and more specifically by a specific small selection of customer key users who know what they are doing. The user who, after the project has been created, he only needs to execute that. So what he does, he has his project and he then goes to insert rule-based blocks. He gets a preview. So we are checking which rules apply to that project. So you see, okay, these are the pages. We have 2 pages. On page 1, there is only this block. If I click on it, I cannot modify it because that checkbox was not checked. So it will be exploded, there's priority, and you see the rule or the expression, but you cannot make any changes. There can be, of course, multiple drawings which will be inserted on page 1. And page 2, I have the other one. Here I would be able to edit. I could say, okay, don't explode. You can also say, no, I do not want to have that imported. And you can search if there are a lot of blocks and so on. But essentially, you click on insert. And now these assemblies are inserted. I cannot zoom on them because that's in some IP rights. but you will see it will take a moment because, as you know, if you insert, let's say, if you use copy and paste from one drawing to another, it will take a while because all the database entries need to be inserted. So this is now on page 1. We have this block, and on page 2, it is finishing its job. That will be then this assembly here. So this is how the rule-based block insert works. Okay, so let's check. Okay, no new users had joined. So again, this will be made available. I don't know exactly when and exactly where, but we will inform you in case you want to review that again. And for those of you who already have PlantTools, you can also go to our online documentation. This project create, a plant project create, and this rule-based insert is not yet available on the online documentation. I have to create the videos and documentation for that, but the volt calculation, especially the volt calculation, is very detailed on there, and also all the other features. Okay, so I would that concludes the session of today. I have, I think, some remaining slides. Let me just open them. Yeah, we have also on our homepage a blog, also in English, where I show some, so for example, new features in AutoCAD Plant 3D, and some videos for new features we create or some topics. And tomorrow, well, that's the session we are right now. Tomorrow at the same time, I have the news about AutoCAD Plant 3D 2021, and at 6 p.m. Central European Standard Time, summertime, we have I have this interview with Greg Wood from CRB, talking about their decision using PlantTools over other applications. And on Friday, I have an overview of only the Plant Express tools functions. I will concentrate only on some because right now I think we have 19 Plant Express tools functions. Okay, have a nice day and talk to you soon.